You know that feeling, that dull thud when you accidentally walk into the corner of a coffee table or catch your arm on a doorframe? In the moment, it is just a flash of pain and maybe a few choice words. But what happens next is actually a biological crime scene investigation taking place right under your skin. Within a few hours, you have a red mark. A day later, it is a deep, angry purple. A week later, it looks like a moldy banana or a patch of grass. And then suddenly, it is gone. Why does your body turn into a mood ring every time you trip over the cat? Why does a bruise go through that specific rainbow of colors? And what is your body actually doing with all that leaked blood? Today, we are diving into the fascinating, slightly gross, and incredibly colorful science of bruises.
To understand why bruises change color, we first have to understand what a bruise actually is. Scientists call it a contusion, and it is basically a localized internal bleed. Imagine your skin as a high-tech protective suit. It is tough, it is flexible, and it is full of thousands of tiny microscopic pipes called capillaries. These capillaries are so small that red blood cells have to line up in single file just to squeeze through them. When you hit your leg against that table, you are not necessarily tearing your skin, but you are creating a shockwave that shatters those tiny, fragile pipes. The moment those capillaries break, blood starts leaking out into the surrounding tissue. It has nowhere to go. It is trapped between your muscles and your skin, and that is where the show begins. The first color you usually see is red. This is the fresh stage. When blood first escapes the vessel, it is full of oxygen. This oxygenated blood is bright red because of a very special protein called hemoglobin. Hemoglobin is the superstar of your circulatory system. It is what carries oxygen from your lungs to the rest of your body. At this stage, your bruise looks like a fresh injury because the blood is still alive in a sense. It is still holding on to its oxygen. If you press on it, it might turn white for a second as you push the blood away, but it quickly rushes back. This usually happens within the first few minutes to a few hours after the impact. But once that blood is trapped outside the pipes, it is cut off from the supply chain. It is not getting any more oxygen. As the oxygen levels drop, the hemoglobin begins to change shape and lose its bright red hue. This is when the bruise shifts into the dark stage. Within 1 to 2 days, your bruise will turn blue, purple, or even deep black. This is the same reason your veins look blue under your skin. It is not that your blood is actually blue. It is just a trick of the light and a lack of oxygen. At this point, the bruise is usually at its most painful. Your body has realized there is a mess to clean up, and it is sending out signals to trigger inflammation. Your nerves are on high alert, and the area might feel swollen or warm to the touch. Now, this is where the biology gets really cool, or really disgusting, depending on how you look at it. Your body is incredibly efficient. It does not like waste. It looks at that pool of trapped blood and says, "We need to recycle this." It sends in a specialized team of white blood cells called macrophages. Think of these as the biological vacuum cleaners of your immune system. Their job is to literally eat the dead blood cells. As the macrophages start breaking down the hemoglobin, the chemistry of the bruise changes again. This is the transition stage, which usually happens around day 5 to 10. The hemoglobin breaks down into a different compound called biliverdin. If you know any Latin, you might recognize the root word for green. Biliverdin is a green pigment. This is why your bruise suddenly looks like you have been smeared with green paint, or like you are growing a patch of moss on your arm. It looks weird and maybe a little sickly, but it is actually a great sign. It means your body is successfully dismantling the iron-rich blood cells and processing the waste.
But the cleanup is not done yet. As the macrophages continue their work, biliverdin is further broken down into another substance called bilirubin. This is a yellow or light brown pigment. This usually happens during the final stage of healing, around 10 to 14 days after the initial bump. At this point, the bruise might look like a fading tea stain or a yellow smudge. Bilirubin is the same stuff that causes jaundice in newborns or people with liver issues. But in the context of a bruise, it is just the final byproduct of your body recycling its own blood. Eventually, the bilirubin is absorbed back into your bloodstream, processed by your liver, and finally exited from your body. Your skin returns to its normal color, and it is like the accident never happened.
Now, you might notice that some bruises heal faster than others. There are a lot of factors at play here. For starters, age plays a huge role. As we get older, our skin becomes thinner, and the fatty layer that protects our blood vessels starts to disappear. This is why a 70-year-old might get a massive purple bruise from a tiny bump, while a 5-year-old can fall off a bike and look perfectly fine the next day. The vessels in older skin are more fragile, and the cushioning is gone, making them much easier to break.
Gender also matters. It turns out women tend to bruise more easily than men. There is some evidence that estrogen can actually weaken capillary walls or prevent them from closing as quickly after an injury. Plus, women often have a slightly different distribution of body fat, which can make bruises more visible near the surface of the skin. Your diet is another secret factor. If you are not getting enough vitamin C, your body cannot produce enough collagen to keep your blood vessel walls strong. In the old days, sailors would get scurvy, and one of the primary symptoms was that their bodies would just start bruising and bleeding spontaneously because their capillaries were literally falling apart. Vitamin K is also essential because it helps your blood clot. If you are low on vitamin K, a tiny bump might bleed for longer under the skin, leading to a much larger and darker bruise than you would expect. Even the location of the bruise changes how it looks. Bruises on your legs often take much longer to heal than bruises on your face or arms. Why? Gravity. The blood pressure in your legs is naturally higher because your heart has to work harder to pump blood back up from your feet. When those vessels break, more blood leaks out, and it takes longer for your cleanup crew to reach the area and haul the waste away. Also, gravity can actually cause a bruise to travel. Have you ever hit your forehead and ended up with a black eye a few days later? That is just gravity pulling the leaked blood down through the soft tissues of your face. You did not hurt your eye. Your forehead bruise just moved house.
Now, I know what you are thinking. Can I make it go away faster? We have all been there. You have a wedding or a big photo shoot coming up, and you have a giant purple mark on your arm. The most effective way to handle the bruise is the RICE method: rest, ice, compression, and elevation. But timing is everything. You need to apply ice immediately after the hit. The cold causes your blood vessels to constrict, which limits the amount of blood that can leak out. If you wait 24 hours to ice it, you have already missed the window. The leak has already happened. After about 48 hours, you actually want to switch to heat. Applying a warm compress increases blood flow to the area, which helps those macrophage vacuum cleaners move in faster to start the recycling process. While most bruises are just a colorful reminder of our clumsiness, sometimes they can be a warning sign. If you start seeing bruises show up for no reason at all, like on your torso or back without any memory of a bump, it might be time to see a doctor. This could be a sign of a clotting disorder or a side effect of a medication like aspirin or blood thinners. Also, if a bruise does not start changing color after 2 weeks, or if it feels like a hard, painful lump that is actually growing, that is a red flag. Sometimes the body can't reabsorb the blood properly, and it forms what is called a hematoma, which might need a professional to look at it. But for the 99% of us who just occasionally walk into doors, those changing colors are just a sign of your body doing its job. It is a tiny, localized miracle of chemistry and biology. From the bright red of fresh oxygen to the deep purple of trapped blood, the forest green of biliverdin and the golden yellow of bilirubin, your skin is basically a canvas for the most efficient waste management system on the planet. So the next time you look down and see a weird green smudge on your shin, don't be grossed out. Take a second to appreciate your immune system. It is hard at work, cleaning up your mistakes one pigment at a time. It is a process that has been refined over millions of years of evolution, all just to make sure that the $50 coffee table you walked into doesn't leave a permanent mark. Thanks for watching. If you found this colorful deep dive interesting, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into the weird ways your body works. Have you ever had a bruise that traveled to a completely different part of your body? Let us know in the comments below. We love hearing your stories. See you in the next one.